Well, hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. How the heck are you? I am the Lavender Lady, Diana Clarion, and this is the Sunday stream. And these days, I've been checking the United Nations figures, and it appears that by the time 2050 comes rolling around, we are going to have perhaps 9.8 billion people on this rock. Where they're going to fit, I have no idea, but I'm not sure I'm going to be that much concerned with it because I'm probably not going to be around. Some of you, however, will be. And one of the things I can see being of major concern with that population at that time is going to be finding something to eat. And with me tonight is Wonder Lady Fey, back with me again from this morning. We got to talking last week about various gardening methods, and she had some fascinating things to say. And I happened to say to her, "We've got to go with this. We've got to present this to everybody." So, Fey, why don't you give us an
Hi.
idea of what's going on?
Uh, well, when it comes to agriculture, people have some very uh skewed ideas. We're kind of stuck in a rut, and there have been ways where people have actually made the most of farming and cultivation that we don't do as much today because we have, ways to cheat.
Uh huh.
Um, Basically, what I'm talking about is aquaculture, hydroponics, aquaponics, and there are other things that you can do.
Okay. Yeah, and a lot of that stuff that you were talking about with me was very new to me. You mentioned something about microgreens, which I had never heard of before. And then after I looked them up, I found out that I had an idea of what they were, and I'll bet you a lot of people out there might be in the same situation. I mean, what are we dealing
Right.
with? What are we dealing with here?
Oh, well, what we're dealing with here, uh, let me be clear about aquaculture. Aquaculture has been around since like 1,000 years before, uh, 1,000 or 2,000 BC.
Okay.
And aquaculture is very basically uh, raising fish along with uh, another thing, whether that be like silkworms, or it's kind of like fish and farming, but a little bit more specific. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
I think it almost does. I mean, do I get a picture in my mind of various fish swimming among the roots of whatever it is that you are growing in this area, and you're going
Well, it could
to.
be fish, it could be uh shellfish, or even plants. And the thing is, it's like one waste product goes to feeding another thing. Whether it's fish poo that's going to feed plants, or say silkworm uh waste going to feed fish. It was one way that we uh Eastern farming cultivated carp.
Okay, and it sounds very familiar actually to me. It sounds
Think of
like.
the rice paddy.
Yeah, it sounds like a method of keeping an aquarium that I have been looking into here called a Wallstad tank, which is basically it's a heavily planted aquarium. They are submerged plants, and the fish that are swimming around in the aquarium provide their waste to help the plants grow, and the plants give off the CO2. I'm sorry, they use up the CO2 and they give off the oxygen, which the fish can now breathe, and it's almost self sustaining. Is this the kind of thing you've got in mind?
Well, the plant kind of. Uh, um, that's more aquaponics, where you have like a pump that pumps fish, water, and waste to plants, and the plants clean the waste out, and it goes back to the fish. You can have that through floating rafts over the fish. You can have that through pipes, which with stuffed rock wool, and the pumped water going through the pipes. And also you can have a medium like clay pebbles to hold the plant roots in place while the water is cycled through.
Okay, I get you. I get you. And
But in the aquaponics situation, 2 out of the 3 models, the water is being pumped through, and they let it drain, and then it's pumped through again like 15 minutes later. It's a constant pump. In aquaponics, you were using 90% less water than traditional farming. When I mean traditional farming, I mean what you think of today with like the big field, the farm,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
like the tractor. 90% less water.
And acres of space to feed one
Right.
person,
Uh,
basically.
hydroponics is basically you are constantly testing the water, finding out what nutrients put in. It is on a closed loop. Um, you're constantly recycling that water, but not over creatures, and not over anything but plants. And the plants do very well, but it's a constant like, oh, it needs more nitrogen, or oh, it has too much of this, and I need to balance that out. Oh, the pH level is too high. You have pH level issues with aquaponics as well. However, hydroponics is that much more sensitive,
Okay.
if that makes any sense. But aquaponics, uh, you don't have to have horizontal farms. You can have vertical ones where you have like a whole bunch of plants spiraling up a pipe with the holes, and
You,
different
you
ways. You can have that with greenhouses. You can have that outside. It depends on your environment. You can grow in a desert. You can grow in snow. You can have a constant source of fresh fruit and veg. It makes more use of space, can feed more people, and with aquaponics, you can also have like 2 harvests, not just plants and like fruits and veg, but also the fish or the shellfish or crustaceans that you are growing.
yeah, definitely. Now I remembered that you had a few pictures that you were showing us last week. Would you have any of those around, or
I don't.
okay? Darn it, darn it, darn it. I was kind of hoping, but we can deal with that. And I know I should have saved some off as well.
Well, I could try to look some up right now, but like if you write in, say,
Because what you were showing me was some fantastic stuff, and I may even look in here.
well, what I was showing last week was basically container gardening, where you can basically in buckets or raised beds, things like that, mostly buckets, like 5-gallon buckets, where you can raise your own fresh fruit and veg right on your property. You don't have to have like an apartment with a garden. You can actually do this in buckets. I was advocating at the time, uh, what do you call it? Like for towns and villages and cities, instead of flowers, to put in edibles. It can't feed everyone that way, but
Yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
and not
Yeah.
everybody eats fruit and veg. But the idea is, one, more people will be involved in growing because community centers, etc., etc. You've got groups for kids and things like that that could volunteer and help grow and help harvest, deliver excess produce to food pantries. But if someone needs a cucumber for dinner, they can just pick one and go.
Yeah, because one of the things that came to my mind when we were talking about that was I don't eat very many fruits and veggies, mainly because they are rather expensive to buy at the local Save a Lot, or which sometimes is a misnomer, sometimes it's great, but um, the the cost factor comes into play.
Yeah.
And what you were talking about sounded like something that could reduce that to a great extent. I'm finding some of the things that you were presenting here. Let's see if we can draw some of these off in the garden group
Right. Well,
group DM that you had going.
homeless shelters and food pantries could be growing fruit and veg outside. Normally, they only offer like canned products, etc., and nothing perishable. And that's a problem because like more and more people, um, it's kind of like you get into a food desert type of area, and you'll find kids who have never seen an apple.
And that's unfortunate. That's extremely unfortunate
No, I'm
to
not
have some.
saying that they're going to have apple trees outside of homeless shelters and food pantries, but I
Right,
mean,
right.
if they had the yard for it, they could. And at the very worst, they could have containers growing some fruit and veg to at least take some of the edge off of the hunger issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I've got one thing going over here. Let's see if we can present that to the entire. Okay, here we are. And what this appears to be, I hope everybody can see this up. This is, I think, a little bit of what you were talking about, where you could have plants growing in the water supply, the pipe.
Yes, that's the pipe one. That's with Rockwool, and what you're looking at there is Swiss chard.
It kind of looks like it, yeah.
Yeah, you can break off a few leaves and it'll keep growing. It's good for you. The only thing with aquaponics is that you have to add both iodine and calcium to the water because those are two things that the fish or the creatures are not going to be producing. And both the fish
Okay,
and the plants do need. So, like, if you grow spinach in a environment that doesn't have calcium, it's not going to do well.
right, right, yeah,
You
and
can tell from these plants that they've got the nutrients right. They also the light levels right. And they also have the heat right.
do you happen to know where this was taken? I mean, what place on Earth, or
I don't. I'm assuming that might be like no. I can't even guess.
okay, and it's
I can't
probably the
even guess.
safe thing
Right.
to not venture
Well,
a
I
guess
do
you
know
can't
like
support.
there are aquaponic places in say India that are most of the European continent had issues this summer with heat and drought,
Yes.
and there was a huge crop failure across the planet. Basically, uh, there are some aquaponic places across the world. They're scattered. They're not very. It's not that popular. Although 10 years ago, Cornell University did invest $1 million into aquaponics. It's also invested into hydroponics, and they have a major like agriculture center like thing in New York City. And there are people in New York City who are trying to grow these systems or have these systems on top of roofs and etc. Uh, there are aquaponic farms in India that are basically trying to provide through food through aquaponics to like combat climate change. And what they're
Okay,
doing
yeah.
is they're not just growing tilapia, but they're also growing sardines and all different types of fish. Um, there are many types of fish that do well in an aquaponic system, and that's incredible because it's like, oh wow, okay, you're not going to be stuck eating the same thing. And you also have aquaponic systems that don't depend on the same like edible fish. You could use goldfish if you want. Like if you hate to eat fish and you're not interested in selling the fish, you just want to raise them. You don't have to sell the fish. You can have like a decorative fish, or you can have like a fish that poops a lot. And the ones that poop the most, goldfish.
Oh yeah, I remember that. One of my
They are just
girlfriends
so awful. But
raised cold water
aquaponics,
fish.
as per like this November, is just emerging in South Africa. There are other areas in Africa that are using aquaponics. The fish most commonly raised in Africa is tilapia, and they're
Mm-hmm.
also growing
Mm-hmm.
leafy vegetables. And the nice thing about aquaponics is that you can farm in a city. You can actually
Yes.
like cut down the whole like I have to transport these things to restaurants or to the grocery market or to the marketplace because you can grow it in cities. You can grow it basically anywhere if you have enough room. And you can pretty much uh
Okay, we
like
blew that.
one family doing it could pretty much feed a block. But the
Yeah.
thing is, it's like people there's not everyone can have aquaponics. I mean, there's other things that you could raise at home. You could have a bit of a log with shiitakes growing through it. Uh, if you have a basement, you could and it's clean. Mind you, when it comes to mushroom growing, you must have a clean environment or you will not have good things to eat. Oh, that's the
Mm-hmm.
side of a building, and you can see
Yeah.
arugula, and you can see like onions and spinach, and there's some kale up there. Um, this is a different type where you're doing the wall up.
Yeah, this is
Uh,
up the side of a building, is it not?
right, and they have some of these aquaponic towers, not the flat squares, but the pipes. But instead of going side to side, they're going up and down. Some of those are in airports where they're actually
Okay.
growing like vegetables in the middle of an airport because
It
they're also trying to use that to clean air.
it's been a dog's age since I've been inside an airport, so I don't know if any of the places around here are doing anything like that. Do you know if any of the airports in the U.S. are doing that, or is that
I don't know which airports are doing it, but I have seen
okay?
pictures. Uh, Mr. Shadow Kitty says there is a successful vertical farm near me in the city of Asbury Park. Is that New
Okay,
Jersey?
where
It
God,
was carved out of condemned lots. If
we're,
that's the case,
yeah,
Mr. Shadow Kitty,
that's where
I'm
God
very
plays skee
happy.
ball.
What?
God plays skee ball in Asbury Park.
I haven't
That's
played
a
skee
reference
ball
to
in
that's a
Asbury
reference to
Park.
Dogma.
I see. Okay. Well, that's
Okay.
more Red Bank. The people who did Dogma, they're actually in Red Bank.
Okay, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and I think one of them has a restaurant in Red Bank, New Jersey.
Oh, this
But
is interesting. Mark Caesar mentioned, I guess in reference to the picture that was just up, that would be great insulation as well. Do you see it working that way?
yes and no. Um, my only concern about like colder temperatures, I don't think you would be able to have like an outdoor wall of plants like that. You'd have to cover it because, as you know, when ice and snow accumulate on things, buildings and roofs will collapse.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't want an extra heavy thing on a side of a building accumulating weight unless it was inside, like, you know, a greenhouse. But you could connect greenhouses to buildings and, you know, keep things going that way. And a lot of aquaponic farms, they do both solar, their own solar like electricity production, plus they collect rainwater for their systems, so they're not really using the system. They're not polluting the water because they don't have to do major flushes. And if they do because they weren't being careful, it's like a one-time thing. And it's not like the water's polluted because it's, just fertilizer. They can put it on the lawn and the grass will grow.
Yeah. Now here's I found a really interesting one that's it appears to be within a greenhouse. Let's see if we can get this up here. This little guy over here looks like it could be very, very useful. I mean, that looks like instant salad right there. Let's see if we've got. Okay, there we. I hope I'm sharing this to
Oh,
everybody
those are
now.
muskmelons. Those
Oh,
are muskmelons
okay.
and things like that. You've got different lettuces.
Yeah, I was thinking. I was
Uh,
thinking there was leaf lettuce there in the foreground.
there is some leaf lettuce, but there's also muskmelons if you look. And different types of lettuces. There's like three different kinds.
And yeah, I see the melon vines, or are those tomato vines that are near
No, those
the?
are melons.
Okay.
I think those are melons.
Now, what I want to know is how
But they
you.
do have like major tomato aquaponic places and stuff like that. And that we have we used to there was some lettuce production coming from an aquaponic place, but I think they found a better buyer than our local grocery store, which is a shame.
Okay.
Because they came like roots and all, everything was nice and
Oh
clean.
my. Okay.
Everything was like bushy and lovely and just like perfect looking.
Now, there were some things that we were talking about that the average person could actually do at home, and I think this is where the microgreens came from. Um,
Oh
you
yeah,
know, you
the
started
only
talking about that. Do you have any detail on that? I mean, what one does and how one uses them, that sort of thing?
well, have you ever tried to grow like your own bean sprouts?
No, I have not. I have wanted to, but I've never got around to it. I may yet try because I finally grew some cat grass for Sylvia, and I take it that that's pretty much the same idea, is it?
No,
No.
no, because catgrass you usually grow that in soil. Microgreens you can grow them on like um kind of like a screen, a plastic screen. And of
Okay.
course you have to keep those well bleached because you do not want your plants growing mold.
Oh, right. Yeah, and I suppose that would be something you'd really, really want to watch because
Right.
moldy
Like some
roots would
people
not be
put them.
good.
You can buy jars that have the screen, and you can put your seeds in the jars, and then you put a little water in there every day and dump it out. Like you do it twice a day, and they grow like crazy.
The
And
sort
then
of.
in like 3 days to 4 days, depending on the type of plant that you're growing in there, your sprouts will be perfect. Um,
Okay.
if you then take your sprouts and expose them to a little bit of light and they get a little leafier, they're microgreens, but most of the time they will pretty much green up.
Yeah, this is the thing I was talking about earlier. This is vermiculite in here with, I believe these were a type of wheat that you just
Oh,
basically put over the vermiculite. And I take it, is the microgreen a similar thing to that?
well,
That one could actually do, say, on a
except for
table
that
or.
has soil.
And, yeah, the only thing in here is that little pumice stuff that they call vermiculite. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
there
roots are
there
not
is no
bare.
vermiculite in the microgreen thing.
Say again?
There is no vermiculite.
Oh, I've got you now. Okay, I was a little slow. I'm a little slow that way. So you're basically doing it in water alone.
You're not doing it with any soil at all.
Okay, fine.
There's no soil to wash off of it and etc. It's pretty much
So you
something that you can just do. And there's at least 100 and, well, I shouldn't. Uh, you can do like beets and radishes and mustards and
Oh my, tasty.
like onions and baby spinach and arugula, baby kale, like all the goodies. You can grow them in like the shoots. The thing is, like most of the time, you can get like either a quarter of a pound. Well, you can get tiny little packages too, but you can get like a quarter of a pound or a pound worth of seeds. So for a pound of seeds, it's usually like $40.
Now,
But the thing is, you'll have that for years.
I was going to ask how much you got to eat from that.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, okay.
Quite a
Because,
lot. Like I bought a quarter of a pound of mung beans and I'm still not through them. And that was 2 years ago.
okay.
And it's just like you can figure out how much you need, grow it in a jar. It's like Wednesday is my tuna fish and mung bean type of thing. I do my quote unquote sprouts that day. I don't really microgreen it because, well, you need to look it up. But the thing is, restaurants do pay a lot for things like this. Like from the aquaponics and the microgreen, there are whole industries where people are growing things in trays, basically, taking up very little space, and they are producing a lot of food. And when you think about it, it's so much easier to do that rather than to like let the vast stretches of land. They could grow other things, professional farmers, that for industry. Like there are so many industries that need that farmland. We could eat very well and not, there's stuff for lotions and medicines and all kinds of things that we need land for. And the more of us we have, the more that's going to compete.
Yeah, and there's the big
You know
thing.
what I mean? Like there are things that we need to grow plants for, and we also need it for food. Like part of the farm production around me, they raise food for animals, not for people.
Yeah. Oh, now there's something interesting that comes to my mind. I don't know if it's inextricably wound up with what you're talking about now, but would it necessarily be advantageous to not feed the things you grow to animals and instead eat it ourselves and then work with the type of gardening methods you're talking about to grow it to eat it? Would that necessarily be a good thing, or would we really
Let's put
need
it
the
this way.
animals?
I think we need the animals. I mean, I know a lot of people go vegan, but like, and I know that's the nicer thing to do, but I would like to actually save some land for habitat. And I also don't think a lot of the creatures that we have will have homes in the future because we're going to be so scrunched in there, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, what if we actually need to eat some of these things? Like, we just found a use for hermit crabs in medicine.
Yes,
So,
the
like,
blood supplement or whatever you want to call that, right?
let's try to preserve. I mean, I know it's mean to say, oh yeah, we'll just keep eating them, but let's try to like have a relationship with creatures that we have, and maybe even provide some territory for them to run around. I mean, the more squished we are, maybe people get smarter and like have less children or whatever. I don't know.
Oh my!
I don't know.
I have just
But
no,
all I what?
I have just noticed something over in the side chat. There is a woman after my own heart. Bionic Dance loves the broccoli. Yeah,
Yay!
yay! I cannot get enough of this stuff. So, do the brassicas work that well for micro microgreens.
The what?
The
Broccoli?
brassicas, like broccoli and cabbage and that
Yeah,
sort of thing.
I don't know about cabbage, but definitely broccoli.
Okay, Mark, I think.
You'd have to experiment, but the thing is, horseshoe crabs, Mark
Yeah,
Caesar.
Mark Caesar. I was
You
going to
you
say.
need you should look up horseshoe crab blood and medicine. It's very interesting.
Hi,
Very,
Christy
very interesting.
Santiago. How you doing? Good to
She's
see
so
you here.
sweet.
Boy, we've got some wonderful people in here, and
So,
I am certainly hoping you guys are loving every minute of this. And I'm always up if you are. I mean, I'm not trying to head us off of the pass yet, but if you Faye are up for an after show and the guys in the side chat are up for an after show, I'm up for that as well. So think
okay.
about it for a while, and Faye, why don't you keep going on?
Oh, okay. You can grow ginger in a container. It grows side to side rather than up and down, but you can grow ginger.
Oh my! Oh,
You can grow onions indoors. You can grow your herbs indoors. You could set up a small aquaponics thing with your own aquarium. When you think about it, you don't have to invest much. I mean, like the fish might eat the roots, but by that time, hopefully, they're ready to be harvested anyway.
the
So
only thing I'd have to think about was how to keep Sylvia away from that.
true.
Because she likes fish vision. But
Sticky tape.
there you go. I had just thought of horseradish root. Would one be able to grow that?
Yeah, you can grow radishes in an aquaponic system. You can also grow radishes in a hydroponic system, and you can also grow radishes in a pot.
Oh
You
yeah.
can you can grow carrots and radishes. You can get the daikons, so they're like thinner and longer, and get a great big pot or a 5-gallon bucket, and you can have a supply.
Indeed, because horseradish is something I was never able to easily find in grocery stores around here for whatever reason. I don't know why they didn't carry it, but there are some recipes of mine, and we'll talk about some of that in the after show
Well,
that call for horseradish.
here's something that will blow your mind. You don't have to plant potatoes in the ground.
No, you
You
don't.
can push them into a bale of hay and come
Yes,
back months later and you'll have potatoes. You can also grow them in a bag.
my ex-wife and
And
I
as
used.
as as the plants grow, you can just add more dirt and blah blah blah. And at the end of the season, you pull down the bag and you've got a whole mess of fucking potatoes.
My ex-wife and I used to cut potatoes in half, place them on the ground, and cover them with grass clippings every time
Well,
we
the
mowed the
little
lawn.
eyes, the little eyes.
Hmm.
If you cube the potato where the little eyes are separate, do it that way. You
As long as you have one eye for each piece that you've cut, right?
right,
Yeah.
right, and it'll grow from that. By the way, if you have a potato that is growing, do not eat it.
Okay, why do you not want to eat that?
Okay, because when your potato starts to grow, like its own plant things,
Uh-huh.
it can kill you.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, I forget what it's called. Um, let me think for a second. Uh, yeah, you can't. I don't know if it's a poison or a toxin. It's one or the other, but I think it's a poison.
What's the
But
difference?
anyway, it a toxin is. Oh God, you're really.
Am I taxing your brain?
Let's put it this way: a toxin. I'm nervous. That's why I'm like this right now.
Oh, come on. I won't
Uh,
bite. Nibble, maybe, but not bite.
well, there's a huge difference between toxin and poisons, and uh,
Okay, now this is
It has
interesting.
something to do with like bacteria and junk and a poison. Like toxins are. Ah. Okay,
I
my
know
brain
that
is freezing. I know
Anadolu-
what I mean. I know what I mean, but I can't say it.
um, antediluvian atheist is mentioning green spuds selenic acid.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, because I know that selenium in all but the tiny, 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 tiniest amounts is
Oh,
not exactly fun.
let's put it this way. Toxins and poisons are pretty much the same thing, but a toxin is more like a venom than a poison. Does that help?
Yeah, I think it does, really. Um,
Because, like, that's the only way I can think to describe it.
mm-hmm. No,
And,
okay. When you say the potato starts growing, you don't want to eat it. I know when I get potatoes from the local Save a Lot, they'll have some of the little little white sprouts, maybe about a quarter-inch tall, beginning to form at the eyes. That, do I take it, is not a bad thing? It's when it grows further than that?
no, that's a bad thing.
Okay, that is. So what is it? You do not. You want to knock the
You,
white
you,
things
you
off?
don't, you don't want the eyes to be growing.
Okay, okay.
It's like, if the potatoes are green, don't eat them. Or if there's new sprouts on them, don't eat them.
Okay. Oh, beach price. Thank you.
Just,
Toxins are
just
made by living things. Poisons can be synthetic or made by living things.
thank you,
Thank you,
Beach.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, you guys are so helpful.
Well, my brain was freezing on that because my head is still on the aquaponics thing. But yeah, be careful with potatoes. But there's like all kinds of things. You can grow many things in different ways, and like if you look it up, there are ways to preserve root vegetables in sawdust and in cold places. Like if you have access to a basement, or you could bury it somewhere,
Yes, well, but
or
my babka used to keep carrots and potatoes in sand in the root cellar.
right.
You would have a
That
box
makes
of
perfect sense.
yeah, and I would go downstairs, for example, and dig into the sand, pull out a carrot, and brush it off and eat it, and it was yummy and tasty and everything. Um,
Right.
God, I
I
miss
and
those
there's
days.
other ways that you can preserve food. That if you're growing your own food, you can dry it, you can can it, you can ferment it. Everyone's, oh, fermented vegetables,
Oh
probiotics.
man, come on,
Screw that crap. But the thing is, it's like, come on, kimchi is delicious.
yes, it is. Um,
There's something about sauerkraut's delicious. Fermented vegetables are delicious. Screw the whole probiotic and it cures cancer, diabetes, and blah blah blah. No, it's just delicious. There's different ways of preserving food, and fermentation has been one of those ways we've done.
and definitely
So
stay the
let's
hell away.
just throw the woo out and just appreciate the fact that it's fucking edible.
And just leave the jelly juice alone, people. Please, no waterfalls.
Right. Like I know I'm cursing now, but I hate that crap when they're like, "Oh, it can cure everything." No, it's still, don't demonize the fermentation process because a few people have wooed it up.
Oh, come on.
It's still a way of preserving food.
Excuse me, has anyone in the side chat ever heard of sauerkraut, or what I called kapusta when I was growing up, which is fermented cabbage? Thank you very much. This stuff works. It really does. Um, and it was excellent source of vitamin C, among other things.
Right.
And yeah, it's not. I'm keeping my head in about 13 different places, and I probably did not see what you said. So I'm truly sorry about that. What I need somebody running sound and video in here.
I need someone. I need my own help with my stuff too. But
Oh
what
my.
do you call it? Like, look this stuff up. Read about it. There used to be like there are some places that are still selling aquaponic systems for ridiculous amounts of money.
And I take it that you really don't have to
Like,
buy that. You can just whap it together at home.
technically, you could, as long as you understand how bill siphons work and you're willing to put in the effort to learn a little bit about plumbing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Um,
like there are things that you can do if you've got your own home or you have a piece of property. If you're someone who lives in like a warmer climate like Florida or Australia,
yeah, not
or
you or
like
I.
or well, I would need a greenhouse. You would need a greenhouse.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But like there are ways of getting things like this done, and they're doing it in other countries.
Purple
They're
rhymes.
doing it here, but not as prevalently.
Mm-hmm.
And like I don't know, like 30 years ago when I first looked into mushroom cultivation, there were only 6 mushroom cultivators in the United States,
Oh my.
and one of them was running it from inside his house
Well,
for grocery stores.
there were
There are a
probably
lot more now.
well, there were probably more at the time, but they were not mushrooms that you would have on your beef gravy or anything like that. They were a different
They
kind of
were
mushroom.
buttons. No, they were button mushrooms. They were button mushrooms. So yes, it was the beef gravy ones.
Okay, no, I was saying a lot. There were probably a few people around that were growing psilocybe or something like that, but
Well, I don't think they would have been counted.
right.
I'm just
There you
talking about
go.
mushroom cultivation for food.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
I know, but I'm not going to touch the drug subject.
Purple rhymes with orange. You're asking if I take it kapusta was similar to kimchi. Yeah, vaguely. It's just not fermented until it's rotting, and it doesn't melt your head when you eat it because it's so damned hot.
Purple rhymes with orange. As soon as I can raise $30,000, I will be building a greenhouse. It's one of the things I want to do is I want to have my own farm. But that's beside the point. Anyway,
Oh
um,
my, yeah.
to put this into perspective, though, like food production, I don't care like how much money you have or how much money you don't have. Even if you just start a few pots of, for like fresh herbs on your counter or in your windowsill or wherever you live, or maybe you can hang a tomato plant outside. Not necessarily upside down, but you can train those little fuckers.
I think I
Cherry
have.
tomatoes are delicious,
I'm trying to
you know.
remember. Yeah, if I've seen people grow cherry tomatoes as trailing plants. Have you seen that at
I've
all?
seen them in 5-gallon buckets with cages. I've seen people hang them upside down in bags and grow them that way.
Okay, okay.
Um, but I think the bucket in the cage is a much better way to do it.
Yeah, I tell you, if I could manage to grow cherry tomatoes here, I would be a very happy
Some of them
lady.
can be like 5 feet tall, and everyone in the apartment building would probably thank you for your efforts.
That wouldn't
You
be
know
a
what I
bad
mean? You
thing.
get this,
Yeah.
you get the sun gold cherry tomatoes. You grow like 2 plants, one in one 5-gallon bucket, one in the other 5-gallon bucket. They usually thrive anywhere between 70 degrees and 90. They love hot temperatures. It's just
Okay.
don't overwater them or their skins will split.
Okay. I did not know that.
I know a little bit too much about this shit.
Well, that's why you're on this show.
But like lettuce in containers, you could just go and pick your a few leaves and the lettuce will just keep growing. You can
That,
grow them in pots. You can grow them in shallow containers. You can grow all kinds of lovely things for your table, especially in the summer. And it may not, if all you can do is grow in the summertime, at least for a few weeks out of the year, you can lower your grocery bill by a couple of dollars.
yeah, and
Maybe eat a little fresher, eat a little better.
you wouldn't necessarily have to worry about E. coli in the romaine lettuce either. Because my
Huh?
understanding, well, with the romaine lettuce being pulled from the grocery stores, my understanding was that it was E. coli in the water supply. So if you grew
Well,
your
okay,
own
that was
romaine, you
last
wouldn't.
year. I don't know what it is this year. I
Yeah.
didn't look into the romaine plant thing this year because when that news broke on the CDC, I was also tracking the new polio-like virus, and I was paying more attention to that than I
Uh,
was romaine lettuce. However, last year it was the source was from Arizona, and this year the source is from California, romaine lettuce. So I'm not sure what the source is.
yeah, because
However, what they're also doing, what you may not realize, that people like Paul Stamets, and I know he's a bit woo, and I know he's a bit crazy, but his science when it comes to mycelium works. What he has done is he has been growing mushroom cultivation inside burlap bags and lining around like streams and around horse farms and things like that, and lowering the amount of pollutants that get into the water supply.
oh my, oh
Uh,
my.
Mycelium will eat petroleum. It will eat poo. It loves poo.
Okay,
Mushrooms
okay.
love poo. Well, it depends on the mushroom type, but the thing is, like, depending on the mushroom, you have a very good recyclable recycler. He used oyster mushrooms to break down oil spill.
Okay, okay, I
And that
gotcha.
is kind of a big deal because it doesn't just, oh, I sucked it all up and now I can't grow or do anything. No, these mushrooms digested this crap and they're edible afterwards. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone knows, but sunflowers take radium out of the soil.
I believe you are the person who introduced me to that fact.
I found out through my science teacher.
Yay! This is the wonderful thing about
The thing
the.
is, though, if you've got kids, I mean, it doesn't take much to start a tiny little garden. Because there's like a percentage of children out there and young adults who don't know how to get to the inside of an orange, like they've never peeled it before. You've got
Okay.
you've got kids who've never seen what a real banana looks like,
Oh my word.
especially in a food desert environment, and they're all over the place. And
Oh,
it's like,
that's
oh, it's a food desert, it's inner city, it's an urban thing. No, you've got people. There's a guy in Detroit for years who was growing an aquaponics thing. He had it in a cart. He'd push it out, and people were buying his stuff. Some people have converted food trucks into like aquaponic food trucks so that they can go, and basically you can't get any fresher than something that's growing when you pick it out.
yeah. And I'll tell you what amazed me when we were talking last week. I went looking up food deserts, and what amazed me was that half, or almost half, of Pittsburgh is classified as food desert. I
Right.
had no freaking idea that it was that hard for half the people around here to actually find decent food.
Yeah.
And
I,
your stuff
that
over here
just
would help
drives
that.
That just drives me crazy. There's
Yeah.
no reason for anyone to starve. I mean, what do you call it? Aquaculture is great. They can farm fish in the ocean. I know there's a big, oh, it's polluting and oh, blah 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 and all this other stuff. The jury, my issues about that are like yeah, don't crowd them in so much. Put them in good locations so you have like an ebb and flow type of thing where you there's things that can be done about the whole aquaculture fish raising thing. We need more fish in the ocean. We
Mm-hmm.
need to do something about the ocean, and they're doing a study on mangrove trees
Okay.
because they may be a way to reverse some of the pollution.
Oh my.
However, they are also sensitive to pollution. So it depends on location, location, location. Because if the pollution is on the land and not just the sea, they will die. So if the soil is screwed
Mm,
up because they're
okay.
like half in the water, half on the land, if the land is too wet or the land is too polluted, that tree has no chance.
Got ya.
And Mark, what do you call it? Purple rhymes with orange. When I say $30,000, that's just what I would need to buy a plot of land around here. But that's beside the point. Uh, I really I can't tell you how important it is that people start thinking about growing some food at home. I mean, even if it's just one shiitake log. If you get one shiitake log and you figure out a good place to put it, whether it's inside or outside, you can force flushes by soaking it in cold water and then pulling it out, and then it will bloom again. You know, the shiitakes will come out. Um, a log, if you don't force flush it, can last about 10 years depending on the size. And I
Okay.
think that would
Okay.
be like a 6-inch radius. But that's beside the point. I mean, there are different ways that you can do things. And it's not just shiitakes. There are other types of mushrooms to grow that are good. There's a um I think it's mycelium cultivation by Paul Stamets. It's pretty much that is the mushroom growing Bible. A lot of people are just like, ah, it's wonderful. That's what I use. And there's different mushroom growing like farmers. There's a community like that does this. You know, one of those hippie communes that I love so much. But
Okay
they
then.
grow for commercial use. And that's how they sustain themselves. And it's all about the shiitakes and oyster mushrooms, and there's different breeds and different varieties.
Gotcha.
What kind of things do I have growing at home? I grow ginger, I grow leeks,
Oh, yum.
and I grow turnips.
Oh, yummy.
I don't have that many windowsills, and I can't afford to what do you call it, have the good grow lights. But I was thinking about trying to grow a bean plant. Oh, and I have a basil plant, and my sister grows stuff.
I wish I had some safe windowsills. Unfortunately, there is a certain little furry person that lives here that likes
Right.
to get up on windowsills and eat whatever is growing. I'll have to work on the outside. That'll be
Well,
all right.
purple rhymes with orange. There's different things about going out to find mushrooms. You have like some mushrooms that infect other mushrooms, so they look like one type of mushroom, but they are a different type of mushroom. So you have to be really, really careful. And when it comes to that, I mean, you can try to cultivate some mushrooms in your yard. I know that what do you call it? Morels really like wood shavings and things like that, and so do puffballs.
Okay,
I
I would be
I don't know.
terrified to do that sort of thing because I don't know one end of a mushroom from the other.
That's why it would be good to actually buy a mycelium culture and figure out how to do this. When you first start a culture and you're trying to inoculate a substrate, whether it be a log or a wood shavings or, compost or whatever. Um, there are certain ways to do it so that you are not risking mold or a different type of fungus taking over.
Yes, yeah.
And when it comes to like growing mushrooms in the home, it's really difficult because let's face it, people are gross.
Yeah. Oh my, oh my. Well, we're at about the hour mark here. If you don't mind an after show, that sort of thing, if you guys in the side chat don't mind an after show, I'm up for one as well. But before we do something like that, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about where they can find you, especially what you're up to, and if you have a Patreon that they might be able to throw money at you, like 20s and 50s and things like that.
Well, uh, well, I have a YouTube channel called Wonder Lady because I ask a lot of questions, I guess. And I've been doing inquisitions where I ask people questions. I have people coming on like Christy Santiago, who's been in the audience tonight. Also Luciano Gonzalez. I do interviews, and I'm going to also have teenagers writing content about what they think of the world, what they expect from the world, what they want from the world. Uh, I my Patreon money for now is going to be to buy them equipment because they need mics, and I'd like to eventually get them laptops because they're both for well, anyway. Um Parents are not affluent, let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm doing what I can to encourage them to write and to remain creative. One of them wants to have a film career, has written away for grants for equipment and all kinds of things. So I mean, it's not like they're lazy kids; they're ambitious kids,
This
and
is
I
a
want to
good
do
thing.
everything I can to encourage that. Um, I really love having Christy and Luciano on. They're the highlights of my week
Oh, they are
because
absolute
one, I'm
sweeties.
learning something, and two, I'm challenging myself. Um, uh, yes, Mark Caesar, only the absolute best people can be your Patreon. Yes,
There you
yes,
go.
and you are a wonderful person, Mark Caesar. And
Thank you, Mark.
what do you call it? I am working on new content. The thing is, my learning curve is like crazy. I'm having schedule issues, so I kind of would like help with that. I would kind of like help with this, that, and the other thing. I can't pay anyone though because I am not affluent, and
Yeah, that's a problem with a lot of us.
there's equipment and stuff like that I need to invest in. So it's kind of like I'm not seeing any money. This is all going back into the channel and
Yeah.
into like making things better. And also, Christy Santiago also now has a PayPal. So I do encourage people to tip her.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Uh huh.
Yeah, maybe we can talk her into a Patreon as well because I
Hey, it
take
was
you
hard
you.
enough to get her to get a PayPal. I'll take what I can get one step at a time. Because come
Okay,
on,
I read you loud and clear.
I'll eventually get that out of her. But right now, I'm happy to just have the PayPal. But I mean, like, what I need for my channel is well, what I need for my channel is for me to lose my job, but that's beside the point. Um,
Yeah, and
as
unfortunately,
far as like
you do that, and it's
my
going to be hard to eat for a while.
true, but as far as my absolute like favorite hobbies, uh, this agriculture thing is one of them. Everyone else knows I like plagues. I like reading about true crime, blah 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 blah. I have some pretty dark hobbies, but I also want to feed the world.
Well,
So go
that
fig,
makes up for all of it.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay, I tell you what, everybody. I put the link to the after show out in the side chat, and as soon as this ends, I can set that up and get it running, and we can move all this
Right.
happy stuff over there. But
Oh,
before we go, yes, dear.
before I forget, purple rhymes with orange. You could cultivate, what do you call it? Chicken of the woods. Um, but that grows on pine, not oak. Some some mushrooms like different types of trees, and if you wanted to cultivate some of those mushrooms that usually grow in the forest, you can do that on your property, or you could at least set up the logs in places that you know that you can frequently visit, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
Anyway,
actually, to me
I'll
it
shut up
does.
about that.
Actually, to me it does. Yeah, we can begin to bring this to a close, and everybody who would wish to uh, go on over to the after show listed in the side chat, and I can throw some links out there for a few people to come on in if they'd like to. And okay, I'm going to thank everybody for coming by for this show, for throwing your support to Faye for the wonderful job she's doing. Thank you so much, Faye, for coming on here, because you've really presented some really good information that I have
Even
found
though I had a
fascinating.
few brain farts.
Hey, that's all the better, because that's coming right from the brain, unadulterated. You know, it's not it's not worked up and propagandized. You're getting it. You're getting it raw and good. You know, just like the raw vegetables.
Well,
So
don't take my word for it. You can look everything up.
okay, definitely, always check your sources. Yeah, even your most trusted ones.
Uh huh.
And we'll see you in a little bit over on the after show. And thank you so much again for coming by. And until next time, thanks a lot, troops. See you
Bye.
on the other side.
Yep.